Hi there, and welcome on the journey to transform culture. I'm Steve, and I'll be your guide. Well, folks, I hope everyone's having a fantastic day and an even better week. Today, folks, we're going to jump into a topic about the thief. I know, right? Where could we possibly go with that topic? But actually, we can go a lot of places with the thief topic. So let's talk basically, let's jump in from, what is a thief? Essentially, in the simplest form, it's somebody who takes something that isn't theirs, right? It's, reallocating resources, however it's justified, whether it be kids doing it, whether it be teenagers, adults, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if it's in day to day culture or whether it's in organized business and so forth. Thievery is thievery. But let's jump into the layers. Because really, on the light side of it being a thief, think of the magician, right? This is probably the most acceptable aspect of the magician. The magician is entertaining us. So this isn't a true thief, but it kind of is because the magician will make things disappear, reappear. It's a trick, right? So part of the thief motif also falls in alignment more with the trickster archetype. If you're not familiar with the trickster archetype, you should look it up. Think of the jesters of old who entertained, right? And our entertainment industry today essentially is we are essentially paying people to put on an illusion, to create a story, right, that entertains us. But within that, as that has evolved, they also give us something back, hopefully, in in a theme, right? Oftentimes, this motif is played out as well. Could be that whether it be dramatizations or comedies, whatever. There's the setup, and then there's the story, right? So that's the light side of thievery. The light side of thievery essentially is entertainment. Somebody, about the only thing they're truly stealing is your time and attention, right? But hey, there is a theft there. But are you getting something in return? Because if you're not, this definitely is a theft. But that's mild. As we start to expand outward, you can let's look at more interpersonal things, whether it be family or friends. And you see this in the news often as, if you go back in time, you can dig up, and we've seen stories that unfold where family members have stolen inheritances and have done all kinds of shystery things and, thievery, um, uh, misrepresentation, right? Um, False witness, and all these things. All the things that go into trying to steal something, right, from someone else, subverting what the intended purpose is. So you might see that in family environments. You might see it also relationally too. Somebody who's a taker, right, in relations, it could be family, could be friends. They always want something, but never are there to help out. There isn't a reciprocal uh, relationship there. So, what is that? That's a mild form of thievery, unless it's extreme, where they are always taking and, I mean, truly never helping out and never reciprocating. Then that's significant thievery. But you can see where this gets. There's some layers to this. Some people are, they'll give some, but they'll take a lot. Some will get a little bit more, but they'll still take a lot. And on it goes, all the way up to those who actually reciprocate. There's no real thievery, but for the rest there is. And whether they're conscious of it or not aware of it, it still happens. So we have to assume that it's learned behavior, right? Their parents were perhaps that way. Think of the person who goes to the yard sale and finds something for $1, but then tries to sell that for $500. And I'm not talking a about a Picasso painting that is obviously worth something. Obviously, when those happened, those are notable, significant standalone events. But the person who wants high value but never gives even fair value, right? Wants something for nothing. And that's a difficult person to deal with because that is a form of thievery. Now, if you have a culture, let's say take some sand and just throw it about and say we have a culture made up of many micro and macro thieves, and then you enter those people into all levels of, so not only society and culture, but you also enter those into organizations. Now you have that same behavior going on within organizations. For some, it might be mild. I'm not advocating, obviously, but the milder version would be, they take a pen home, but they use it all the time, even when they come to work and back and forth. Most people will say, "Oh, it's a pen," right? But it is still a theft, right? They've taken something. All the way up to those who are taking more things. But the thing that is subtle that goes on is that all the micro to macro theft that goes on within an organization, and it's time and energy. Now, if I stand there and I'm talking to my buddy for 30 minutes about last night's game, it's 1 minute or one scenario to talk briefly about, hey, that's being social and acknowledging somebody else for, 20, 30 seconds, a minute, whatever. Maybe not still a micro, but it's not 30 minutes, right? 30 minutes talking about nothing, not getting anything done, not being productive, not doing the job that they're there for. Who are they stealing from? In their mind, they think they're just getting over on the employer. But the reality is that they're all stealing from the customer. And we wonder why inflation is and why markups on products are so significant. And I'm going to tell you this, if you can just wave a magic wand and snap your fingers and lower the cost of your goods and services, then you've been scalping people anyway, and you have been jacking up your prices to get over on customers, not because of internal theft, although that happens, but because the organization now is the thief. The organization has said, oh, how can we essentially get over on the customer? Oh, well, we use this cultural situation. We'll use this thing going on in the news. We use this political scenario. We'll use this, and that as a justification to say, oh, our supply chain. It's the biggest excuse in the world. If your supply chain is a strain, fix it. If you're not doing scorecards for your supplier scorecards, get out to your suppliers and deal with that, because all of this is a form of theft, right? Whether it be the workforce doing it in micro and macro ways, whether it be leadership and management doing it similarly, their theft also can be not developing their team, not engaging with their team, not improving the organization and the cohesion of that team and their ability to problem solve and overcome things, not leading, essentially. When you're in a leadership role and you're not leading, that's a form of theft. You're stealing from the customer, right? Yes, you are also by proxy stealing from the organization, no doubt, but you're also stealing from the customer. You are making the customer pay for something that they ought not to. So you can see where these thefts occur, and you can track this right back to these interactions, whether it be family, friends, whatever, on the subtle level of exchange where it's like, hey, somebody comes over and helps you bale hay, and they ask you if you come over and help them with a minor thing in their garage, helping them, with something. And you're available, but you go, well, I can't really do that. You make an excuse, but you could, right? And you probably should, because this person has helped you out immensely, but yet you deny them, right? You deny them potentially multiple times, right? So, and even worse, character theft. We're calling it that because if you're going out into the community also speaking poorly on people's character, right? That is a form of theft. You are stealing from their potentially their livelihood, all kinds of things, their relations, all these things. You're souring that. You're polluting it, really. But there is a theft there, and so we all have to be cognizant. We're human, and I'm not saying that zero theft is possible. I think our humanity, even unconsciously, we are probably doing these really micro levels of this, and we should be aware of this. And it's easy to make a corrective turn here. We can make a U-turn. Every individual, every team, every organization, all of culture, we can make a U-turn about the idea of theft. And instead of putting it in the bucket like, well, this criminal stole the TV or stole this, well, yeah, but what about these folks over here who are stealing somebody's livelihood, or they're not doing what they're supposed to, which is resulting in people not growing within their roles so that they can thrive? You're stealing their future. You're, by proxy, maybe even stealing from the future of their children and their grandchildren and your own as well. So do you see how these thefts, when they're allowed to continue and we don't, consciously in the front of our mind, think about this and marinate. I've taken, where do I give? Now, if you're taking from 100 on this side and you're giving to 2 on this side, still theft. Still theft. There's not a reciprocal relationship with those people who are giving to you, right? You're not providing them value if you're taking from a bunch and giving to a couple, right? Now, there's situations when we do this, when we know people are struggling and they have traumas in their life, and we do fundraisers and stuff. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about on the daily, right? People in business have to be cognizant of this. Are you giving your customers the value? If that 100 is your customer, or are you simply taking from the customer, scalping the customer for all that you can, and then giving to few? Something to think about. That whole saying, check yourself before you wreck yourself, right? Because what happens is eventually you're going to have a reputation of taking, right? Reputation of taking and not being reciprocal in your relationships, no matter at what level. And then that becomes your paradigm, right? That becomes your paradigm. And that's not a good paradigm to be in. It's not a growth paradigm. So rather than wait for that, train wreck to occur, better to do a self-evaluation and ask yourself, hey, am I in reciprocal relationship? Am I providing value to my team? Am I providing value to my customer? In my life in balance? Am I providing the same? Another form of theft also is if you're a workaholic, you're stealing your life balance from your family. And if you're an organization that doesn't highlight and promote work-life balance, then you're allowing that. You are advocating theft, people's personal lives over for your betterment versus them being in balance. So you're stealing from that. So much smarter to improve how your organization operates. These are the things that I do, so that people can have better work-life balance, right? Because you can't just snap your fingers. We can say work-life balance all day long, but we still have to meet our customers' needs and expectations, right? And then we also can't, it's also theft as well. If you are the person on the team at any level, leader or otherwise, if you are using the organization, so you go home and now you complain that the organization, oh, they put so much on me, and that may not be true, right? You are stealing from their character. You're stealing from the organization's character now to satisfy, so that you're kind of in the clear, rather than improve your organization so that you can maintain good work-life balance. Everybody has a role and responsibility. It isn't thrust onto the customer. It isn't thrust onto the owners. It's not thrust on the leadership team locally. It's not thrust onto the team only. There's no only, there is everyone. But it's been too okay for everyone to throw onto the customer and let the customer carry the load for inefficiency. And if we're only 71% effective in the United States for our organizational performance, right? This is with the before the gimmicks. We know that it's probably in the 60s, probably about around 66% effective in the United States. Well, that should tell you right there. This thievery is helping no one. So when you're stealing from your team by not developing them, you're stealing from the customer. When you're stealing, if you're part of the team and you're not using your time and your resources efficiently and effectively, you're stealing from the customer, right? It all comes back to the customer. But you have more than one customer. You have the primary customer, products and service, but then you have all the customers in your life, right? Your family, your friends, civic organizations, your churches, all the way on and on and on, right? So you have customers of your own, secondary customers, right? There are really no secondaries, but there are, say, your own personal customers. We'll call them that. You're stealing from them when you're a workaholic, right? And when you're not keeping your work-life balance, you're stealing from those customers, those people that you could be more involved with and help and be engaged with. So hopefully today you understand thievery is super subtle to vast. It can be micro, it can be macro. But individually, we're all responsible to do our own self-evaluation, right? As leaders, we should be evaluating our team and our organization, right? As owners, we need to ask these same questions. Are these relationships in balance? Is there reciprocal value being exchanged here, right? Exchanged. Okay, folks, that's a significant one. I'm leaving you with some homework today to do some self-evaluation, evaluate your team, evaluate your organization, and look at it. And this isn't about blame. This isn't about, oh, they're thieves, right? We're looking at it through this lens, so we are bringing a more critical eye to our behavior. And when we do that, we're more likely to improve upon our behavior. That's it. Not about demonizing anyone, okay? We know, okay, statistics are out there. We know this is happening to the micro to the macro. This is no secret. But individually, we're not calling anybody out, right? Systemically, we know we're failing. We know thievery exists throughout. So do your best, do some self-reflection, self-assessment, assess your team, assess your organization, look around at culture, identify, and then see where you can build a bridge. Because it's not about burning down bridges and burning and creating more disconnect. It's about uniting. Anyone can divide. Anyone. You could be the lowest IQ on the earth and divide, right? But you can also make a choice with the lowest IQ all the way up to the highest to unite, right? So it's not about your IQ. It's about your awareness and the choice that you make with that awareness. All right, folks. It's an intense one today. Hope you're having a great day. Remember, hit that good green domino 3 to 5 times a day to uplift, motivate, inspire, and just encourage folks. And when you do that, not only are we helping to improve culture and improve, and create more thriving lives for others, but we're also doing that for ourselves in the process. And that's what creates a balance in our life, right? And that's what we want. All right, folks, good to see you today. Hope you're having a good one. Hit like, share, and subscribe. And until next time, we'll talk to you later.